Auntie Mercy was an amazing woman. Before I moved in with her, she often visited our village, bringing me gifts. She was so kind-hearted that you'd think she was related to either my mom or dad. But she wasn't, she was just a family friend. According to my mom, Auntie Mercy was her school daughter back in secondary school. She was always such an obedient and hard-working girl, my mom would say about her. There was nothing I asked her to do that she wouldn't gladly do for me. There was never a time my mom didn't sing Auntie Mercy's praises. According to her, she had yet to meet any other woman with a heart as big as Auntie Mercy's. But despite all these wonderful qualities, Auntie Mercy was still unmarried at 35. My mom said she was a very unlucky woman. I pray that she finds a good husband someday because any man who marries her will be the luckiest man alive, my mother often said. We were on holiday when Auntie Mercy came to visit, as she usually did. That was the first time I saw her so full of happiness and enthusiasm. It was also the first time I ever saw her wearing a pair of trousers. I'd never seen her in that kind of outfit before. As always, she came with many gifts. She bought clothes and shoes for me and toys and school bags for my younger brothers. "Mama Sandra, you're going to let me take Sandra this time," she told my mom. "I won't leave without her. Look at how big she's gotten." She and my mom were eating at the table. I wanted my mom to say yes so I could leave with Auntie Mercy for the city immediately. But my mom joked, "If Sandra goes, then I'm done for. Who will do the dishes for me? Are you trying to get me kicked out of my house by my husband?" They both laughed at the joke. But when my father came home that evening and heard about Auntie Mercy's request, I was shocked that he agreed so quickly. "You've been like family and have always supported us. We can't say no to you. Sandra will go with you since God has finally answered your prayers." My mom didn't object. I was surprised when she smiled and winked at Auntie Mercy. "Papa Sandra, you're letting her go without my consent. There is God." Everyone burst into loud laughter. I was thrilled that my father agreed to let me go with Auntie Mercy. That evening, I started packing my things. My friends would be shocked to learn I had traveled to the city overnight. All my friends, except Ada and me, had been to the city and often spoke gloriously about it. This was why I wanted to go to the city and live with Auntie Mercy. I wanted to return to the village and speak as highly of the city as my friends did. That evening, I sat close to the adults as they talked. It was then that I overheard Auntie Mercy talk about the man in her life. "He proposed a week after we met, and he's been wonderful to me ever since. I didn't know genuine men still existed," she said, showing off the ring her fiancé had given her. My mom smiled. "I'm so happy for you. A patient dog, they say, eats the fattest bone," my father chimed in from the dining table. "You've been patient, and God finally heard your prayers." Auntie Mercy showed them a picture of her fiancé on her phone, and my mother said he was very handsome. They chatted late into the night while I went to my room to finish packing. The night seemed to drag on forever. I couldn't sleep. My eyes were glued to the clock as I prayed for it to move faster and bring on the morning. I didn't realize when I finally dozed off, but I woke at dawn to my parents' voices. "Sandra, hurry and get ready because Auntie Mercy is getting prepared to leave," my mom said as she entered my room. I rushed into the bathroom, and soon, I was all set to leave with my bag. My brothers had tears in their eyes. I wasn't sure if they were crying because they would miss me or because they wanted to come along too. Either way, I didn't care. All I cared about was going to the city. "Be a good girl and always listen," my father advised me in a corner. "Remember, Auntie Mercy is like a mother to you. Always listen to her and be as obedient as she was to your mother." I promised I would behave well. Soon, a taxi arrived and took us to the bus park. My mom wanted us to eat breakfast first, but Auntie Mercy said we were already late. "I don't want to get home late and be scolded," she said with a knowing wink at my mother, and they both laughed. Their laughter was contagious. When you were around them, you couldn't help but love their camaraderie. My mom and Auntie Mercy were like two peas in a pod. The taxi got us to the park in 10 minutes, and we were lucky to find a bus almost ready to leave. Only 2 seats were available, and Auntie Mercy paid for both. I remember my mom telling her not to buy a ticket for me because I could squeeze between passengers or sit on the engine cover. But Auntie Mercy insisted, treating me like an adult even though I was only 11 and in JSS 1. We arrived that evening and were warmly welcomed by Uncle Samuel, her fiancé. He picked us up from the park in Auntie Mercy's car. I knew it was hers because she had driven it to our house last time and told my mom how she bought it. Uncle Samuel seemed happy to see me, but something felt off. I sensed he wasn't genuine. I noticed it, but I pretended it didn't matter. He drove us home, and Auntie Mercy made semolina, as there was soup in the fridge. "You're not eating," she said as I nibbled at my food. It was true. I was watching Uncle Samuel closely. He didn't seem like a good person. After dinner and some TV, Auntie Mercy took me to my room. She lived in a 2-bedroom flat. That night, she treated me like royalty. The room was well furnished. She told me she had always wanted a sister and hoped I could be that sister for her. I was an only child, she said. My parents wanted more kids, but it didn't happen. They died in an accident while I was in university, and I've been alone ever since. But I'm glad your parents let you stay with me. Please think of me as your big sister. I'll always provide for you and ensure you get the best in life. That night, she gave me an Android phone and said I could use it to browse the internet when she wasn't home and I felt lonely. She showed me websites where I could download children's stories and warned me not to betray her by watching anything inappropriate. Days passed, and I started helping her at her supermarket. She bought me designer clothes and shoes and took me wherever she went. We were so happy together. A young doctor in our church had a daughter about my age. His wife had passed away. His daughter, Mary, was a beautiful girl. We became friends when I joined the choir. Her father was the nicest man I had ever met. One day, when he came to pick up his daughter after choir practice, I asked for his phone number. "Why?" he asked with a smile. He was always smiling and very handsome. "So I can call my friend whenever I want," I replied. Dr. Ben chuckled. "But you already have your friend's number, don't you?" "I want to give your number to my big sister," I said. That's how I got Dr. Ben's phone number, and that's how a potential tragedy was averted. One evening, I returned from choir practice and found Auntie Mercy lying on the floor, blood oozing from her head. She was unconscious. My heart pounded as I saw her in that pool of blood, and the first thing I thought to do was call Dr. Ben. "Please hurry, doctor. My aunt is dying. Please, hurry." He arrived within minutes, and we rushed her to the hospital together. That swift action saved Auntie Mercy's life. I shudder to think what might have happened if I hadn't returned home from choir practice that evening or if I hadn't gotten Dr. Ben's number. What if he hadn't responded so quickly? The truth is, Auntie Mercy would have died. She was fortunate. Her blood type matched Dr. Ben's, and the hospital didn't have her type in their blood bank. Dr. Ben donated immediately, and the crisis was averted. We later found out what happened when Auntie Mercy regained consciousness and recovered. Her fiancé had attacked her. He stole money from her, and when she confronted him, Uncle Samuel tried to kill her. He hit her with a club, and when she fainted, he thought she would bleed to death and fled. But there's no hiding place for evil. He was caught trying to sneak out of the country. He stole 14 million naira from my wonderful aunt, but God showed him who truly watches over the helpless. All this happened a year and a half ago. A few days ago, my aunt gave birth to a healthy baby boy. And guess who the father is? Dr. Ben, the very doctor who saved her life. They have been married for months now. Thanks you for watching this video. Please ensure to like, share, subscribe, and comment what you think about this story. Bye for now.